Good evening. The time is 6:40 p.m. and I will now call this public hearing to order of the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to read the legal notice as it was published in the River East. This is a legal notice and it is dated July 19th, 2023 at 6:40 p.m. in the Buck Foreman Community Room located at 265 Main Street, Portland, Connecticut, 06480. Pursuant to Section 506 of the Portland Town Charter, a public hearing will be held by the Portland Board of Selectmen on Wednesday, July 19th, 2023 at 6:40 p.m. in the Buck Foreman Community Room, second floor, 265 Main Street, Portland, Connecticut, to discuss the progress of the fiscal year 2022 Community Development Block Grant Program for improvements to the Portland Senior Center and to solicit citizen input. Public access is also available through Zoom link A at portlandct.org. The Portland Senior Center, location at 7 Waverly Ave, Portland, Connecticut, 06480, was funded for improvements to the center that included the significant improvements to the kitchen, a new generator, and improvements to the HVAC system. The project began in early spring of 2023 and is anticipated to be completed by September of 2023. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide a detailed update on the project and obtain citizens' comments. The Town of Portland promotes fair housing and makes all programs available to low and moderate income households, regardless of race, creed, national origin, color, ancestry, sex, gender identity or expression, marital status, age, lawful source of income, family status, learning disability or physical mental disability, or sexual orientation. All are encouraged to attend. The hearing is accessible to the handicapped. Any disabled persons requiring special assistance or non-English speaking persons should contact Peter Wilsey, ADA Coordinator at 860-342-6727 at least 5 days prior to the hearing. Equal opportunity employer and provider, affirmative action. Dated this 21st day of June 2023, attest Ryan J. Curley, First Selectman. So as this legal notice states, this is an opportunity for residents in town to comment publicly on the Senior Center Improvements Project that has been ongoing for quite some time now. We have our grant administrator or coordinator here, Dale Croup, to provide an update. Dale, would you be able to come up to the podium to provide us with an update? Good to see you, Dale.
Good to be seen. So, good evening. I am Dale Croup from Community Resource Management. I prepared this grant. Kind of prepared it in the during COVID. So it started off as a smaller grant, about 250, and it kind of grew as COVID got worse. And the idea of it was to make improvements to the kitchen of your senior center. At the time, people weren't going out. So the idea was to make the senior center able to prepare meals to bring to them, and so there's an element of that will happen once the senior center is operational in the kitchen, and for it to make a better place for them to go to have meals. So it ended up being a $725,000 grant, and as Ryan said, it was improvements to the HVAC center, all new equipment, new floor, lots of carpentry and things like that. And a new generator. And the idea also would be that in an event like a power outage or something like that, it could be a heating and cooling center for folks to go in an emergency. So we're moving along pretty well. As Ryan said, we started the project earlier this year. We bid it, publicly bid it, we received bids, reviewed the bids. The architect is, who's the architect?
Silver Petroselli.
Silver Petroselli, sorry. And then, we've been meeting with them. This is a prevailing wage job, so we have to make sure the workers are getting paid in accordance with the state and federal rates. And we're about 80% done. This project will be done by Labor Day. We're just waiting for the delivery of the generator, and that's like the last 20%. So that's really the update to it. And the contractor's been great, and we've had no hiccups with the contractor.
And that contractor is a Resca Construction, who's a local contractor too.
Right. So other than that, I don't know if you have any questions, but it's basically federal money administered by the state.
Have you been over there, Dale?
Yeah, I was there a couple times.
It looks great.
Oh no, it looks tremendous.
Really nice.
Yeah, and it'll be nice when the start producing. And another element, I know your senior center director left, and I don't know if you've hired somebody new
We
yet.
have,
Okay,
yes.
probably should connect with them. There's gonna be some meal deliveries as a part of this for those who some people are still not comfortable going out, or they just may not be able to go out, for various reasons, so. As I move into senior citizenry myself, I understand. But anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Dale. Any other questions? That sounds great.
That's the first one. I'm going
Okay.
to give this to your clerk so she can.
Sure. We'll give it another moment. There's nobody online, I see. And is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment during this public hearing? I just want to say thank you to Dale. Dale and I worked, and I know you worked with Susan before. It was a long, long road to get the approval for this grant. And I just want to say thank you for all your work on this.
Thank you very much.
So, if there's no further comment, we will close the public hearing at 6:49 p.m. And we have another public hearing coming right up. It's now 6:50, so we can go right into it. And so once again, I'm going to read the legal notice of this public hearing. This is Board of Selectmen legal notice of public hearing, July 19th, 2023 at 6:50 p.m. in the Buck Foreman Community Room, 265 Main Street, Portland, Connecticut, 06480. Pursuant to Section 506 of the Portland Town Charter, a public hearing will be held by the Portland Board of Selectmen on Wednesday, July 19th, 2023 at 6:50 p.m. in the Buck Foreman Community Room, 2nd floor, 265 Main Street, Portland, Connecticut, to discuss the progress of the fiscal year 2020 Community Development Block Grant Program for a homeless diversion program and to solicit citizen input. Public access also through Zoom link A at portlandct.org. This program is a collaboration between the Town of Portland and the Community Action Network and Mercy Housing. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide a detailed update on the project and obtain citizens' comments. The Town of Portland promotes fair housing and makes all programs available to low and moderate income households regardless of race, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, gender identity or expression, marital status, age, lawful source of income, familial status, learning, disability or physical, mental disability or sexual orientation. All are encouraged to attend. The hearing is accessible to the handicapped, any disabled person requiring special assistance or non-English speaking person should contact Peter Wilsey, ADA coordinator at 860-342-6727 at least 5 days prior to the hearing. Equal opportunity employer and provider affirmative action dated this 21st day of June 2023. Attest Ryan J. Curley, First Selectman. So, thank you. Once again, I'll open it up to Dale Krupp, who also wrote the grant on our shelter diversion grant as well.
Okay, Dale Krupp from Community Resource Management. You heard the presentation before. So this this was actually the first one that I wrote when Susan was first selectman. So the idea of a diversion program, first I had to learn what a diversion program was before I could write the grant. And basically what it is to provide counseling services to folks in Portland and in the region to provide resources to them so they don't become homeless. And the homeless problem has metastasized in your region. And you're part of the Community Action Network, which is out of Meriden, but it's like 15 different towns. But every town has this issue. And so the diversion program is basically counseling services. So the town did an RFP, hired Mercy Housing to administer it. They are in, I think, 5 days a week in the town hall.
They are.
And when they make appointments with folks who are in danger of being homeless, and a lot of this really grew during COVID when people couldn't afford to pay their rent because they couldn't go to work. It kind of snowballed. So a lot of folks were having issues with their landlords, and so basically it could have been counseling to go get some sort of rent relief or some work with the landlord, to mediate things like that. So the way it works is that Mercy Housing makes appointments based on the circumstances of the folks that come. They basically either refer them to another agency. Sometimes it's for monetary assistance with their rent and things like that. Sometimes it's to seek shelter, sometimes they're not eligible for anything. So I'm just gonna report out what has happened. This started off in, basically, it started off in 2021, but it really kind of took off. Again, COVID slowed everything down. When we first started, people were afraid to go out, the masks, places were closed, town halls were closed. So it had a slow start, but we've scheduled 1,007 appointments. That's 1,007 unique appointments with folks. The majority of those were individuals. There were some families with kids that came to the appointments. About 752, 75% of them actually came to the appointment. A lot of folks are either embarrassed or they couldn't get here because of transportation. So 750 out of the 1,000 roughly actually came to their appointments. 325 were provided assistance to avoid becoming homeless. 298 were on a waiting list. This came right from Mercy Housing, these statistics. 300, roughly 300 of them are on a list for a shelter now, and they still are on the list. So that tells you the gravity of the problem. And then others were, got different services, and there were a handful, only about 30 that were just not eligible. They didn't really need the service, and that happens. Sometimes people see services, they try to get services. And, but in this case, the idea is to divert them from being homeless, because that's another group of problems that a community has, whether it's folks are hanging around or all kinds of stuff. So Mercy Housing's been doing that. It's about 40% complete, the grant, in terms of dollars spent. The grant runs out the end of December, but there's talk of extending it till June of '24. And that there's a regular communication. I think every 2 weeks, Ryan and the person in my office, Fran, who's an expert on this stuff. I'm more expert on the writing and handling the finances part, and working with the state, which requires expertise. And then Fran meets with Mercy, and that's her background. She really knows her stuff there. So that's pretty much the update. I think they got a slow start because of COVID, but now 1,000 appointments were made. So it's not like there's not a need out there for people. So I don't know if there's any questions or.
What was the value of the grant total again?
That grant, it's interesting you asked that. So we originally, when Susan was first selected, we originally applied for $306,800. And because of the problem just kind of metastasized because of COVID, they offered $751,225. So it more than doubled during the course of applying for it originally, and where we ended up.
That's right.
Yeah, so the town, this grant is $751,225. The senior center is $725.
I know our Director of Youth and Family Services is here as well. Jesse, I don't know if you want to say anything on this, or you don't have to.
I mean, if anybody has questions, I can try to answer the day-to-day stuff or something.
Yeah, Jesse's around when they're here, actually. When people
So,
come.
and I just want to touch upon what Dale said, just so everyone's aware. So, Mercy Housing works out of Portland offices. They also work from home sometimes as well. But the important part for Portland running this grant, I believe there's a great benefit to having someone from Mercy Diversion here in town 5 days a week. So although they do work throughout the area, them being here is important. And there's been times, and Jesse can attest to it, where we've had some situations where someone may be experiencing homelessness, and having that diversion specialist here in town has allowed them to go out and reach out to that person immediately, where we would not have that benefit if we didn't have this grant. So there is a benefit to the town in administering this grant. And again, I want to thank you, Dale, for all of your work, and also Fran for all your work on this, and Jesse for all your work. This is a really great program, and there's a significant need. As Dale mentioned, it's only grown, unfortunately, recently. And so, we're very pleased to have this program in the town of Portland.
The only other thing I like to tell Board of Selectmen is every expense related to the grant is paid out of the grant. My time, advertising for this public hearing, every single aspect of it is covered by the grant, not your taxpayers.
That's a good point.
Although indirectly the taxpayers pay for it anyway, but that's another story. But that's, I like to point that out, like, you know, the bid documents, the advertisements, the legal notices can be $1,000, you know, sometimes, if it's a big one. So, I just like to point that out. Okay.
Any public comment on this? This is a public hearing. Anyone can speak. You don't have to. You can.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
With no comment on the chat, no comments in the audience, we will close the public hearing at 6:59 p.m. And our regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen will start at 7 p.m. So, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. So, I'm gonna just have a quick drink. Water. That was good.
Recording in progress.
I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks. Hey, you got Sean. David. Was your birthday 3 days ago? Yeah. Happy birthday plus 3. You legal to drive now?
Yeah, 4 is a quorum. Yeah. Good evening. Again, the time is 7 p.m. and I will now call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our regular meeting of June 21st. We did not have a first financial meeting in July due to the 4th of July holiday. So our last meeting was the 21st. You should all have those minutes. You've been able to review the minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second it. All right, thank you, John and Mike. Any errors, changes, omissions? I'll give you a second. Any errors, changes? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. The next item is the acceptance of tonight's agenda. I have no changes, so I will entertain a motion to accept.
I'll make the motion, we accept the agenda.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, John. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is communications and correspondence. I have one item under communications this evening. I did attend a couple weeks back an Eagle Scout ceremony, which is honestly, I think it might have been the first one that I attended as first selectman, and it's probably one of my favorite things to do. It's always great when we see our youth go through this program, and so we have a certificate of congratulations on behalf of the Board of Selectmen to Colin Wallace, who has recently achieved the rank of Eagle Scout. So I'm just going to read that into the record. May it be known that this certificate has been presented by the Portland Board of Selectmen to honor Colin Wallace on his achievement of the Eagle Scout Court of Honor Award, the highest rank attainable in the Boy Scouting program, for his outstanding work performance, dedication, and unselfish service as a member of the Portland Troop 2 Boy Scouts of America. Colin's leadership service project provided him the opportunity to demonstrate his ability to lead others while performing a project for the benefit of the community. Colin's Eagle Scout service project was to design, build, and lead a group to install bat houses at the Portland Reservoir. His project is a collaborative project including town services, Parks and Recreation Commission, Scouts, Scout leaders, family, and friends. This project achieved great success and appreciation by all. On behalf of all of the citizens of Portland, we commend you for your exceptional accomplishments. Congratulations. Presented this 28th day of June in the year 2023, presented by Ryan J. Curley, First Selectman, Portland Board of Selectmen, John H. Dillon, Michael S. Hernandez, Robert W. Hetrick Jr., Sean P. Manning, Michael A. Pelton, Ralph R. Zampano. So congratulations to Colin. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on any topic? You're welcome to come up and just state your name and address for the record.
Can I do it here, or do I have to?
Well, you have to come up to the mic so we can get you on the record.
Everyone's favorite place.
Yeah, I know, we don't, yeah. It's okay, don't be nervous.
So my name's Chelsea Winchell. I live on Riverside Street, and the reason I'm here is I received a letter regarding a sidewalk that is, I guess, gonna be put in on my side of the road. And the reason that I'm here is that I don't know why I don't see the reason for it. And it's an imposition for me personally because of my house. We only have a 1-car driveway in a 2-car household. So I use the spot where the walkway would be as a parking spot. So if the sidewalk's gonna be put in, I don't really know what my household's gonna do parking wise. And I'm kind of surprised no one else on my roads here, but I'm really just speaking for myself. And I know that back in 2020 and 2021, we had surveyors on my property, and I really wasn't sure what they were for, so I asked them and they said something about a sidewalk, so I kind of thought I should have gotten a letter then. But I just wanted to say my opinion.
What street are you on?
Riverside Street.
Riverside Street, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What number?
6?
So, Chelsea, just so you know, during public comment, the board typically doesn't respond to public comment. Typically, I would be more than happy to speak with you on this
So I
topic.
sent an email to the guy that was on the letter, and he told me to come here and say something in the public.
Okay,
comment.
good. Yeah, no, this is the place to do it.
Yeah.
You're in the right spot.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, I will say, just in regards to this project,
Yeah.
the town had received a community connectivity grant back in 2020. And that project was to connect Riverside Street to across Route 66, to go onto High Street, and then Freestone as well.
Mhm.
And so this was a grant that the town had been awarded by the Connecticut Department of Transportation. This was in the works, you know, when I first got here, and
Yeah.
and it took some time to get the plans going. But I have heard you're not the first on your street to
Yeah.
vocalize that you may not want sidewalks on this street.
Mhm.
And so our Public Works Director is here as well, and we have heard that feedback from residents. So I don't want to get into it too much right now.
No, that's
but
fine.
but
I just
I'd
wanted
be-
to at least, like-
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to talk with you and about this project and what we're trying to do to alleviate any concerns you may have.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right, well, thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
And honestly, do you have an email address or something you could give?
I can put it in the contacts.
Perfect.
On the sheet.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience for public comment? Nothing in the chat. Okay. So we will move on. I think I see Liz Habino is here with us on Zoom, or it looks like with better weather, and you look like you're having more fun than us.
Well, I'm at the park, and I'm here for the fun run, so shout out to Parks and Rec for fun runs and for our beautiful park. I'm here on the Zoom for the Solidarity Committee report. And as most of you probably know, we had our big, news was we did have Juneteenth. Hope you can hear me in the background. Right?
We can hear you fine.
Okay, so Juneteenth, we did need to move into the senior center due to rain, but we made it work, and we're so grateful to the senior center for allowing us to use their space. We still had a great turnout of at least about 100 people. We didn't do a formal count, but we had great speeches and presentations. The Historical Society had a great presentation there, and hopefully some of you were able to see the release article the Friday afterwards. I think it was June 30th. about the Historical Society's presentation of a Portland family, a local Black history presentation. So that was fantastic. We're hoping to work more with the Historical Society to make that even more accessible to the community. We're going to start planning soon for Juneteenth 2024, so that we'll have, even more plans in place and a better rain plan, not as much of a last minute rain plan if we need it for next year. And a couple things coming up. So one is related to Juneteenth. At the event, we gave out books. At least 60 books were given out at the event, which is fantastic. And one of the books was called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man by Emmanuel Acho. And there is going to be a book discussion at Portland Library. We're collaborating with the library to run that on Monday, September 18th at 6:30. We'll be advertising it about the book and how that relates to everybody's lives and how we can, work on race and racism, conversations about race. So I wanted to just highlight that. And in October or November, we'll be having a Pride event in Portland, and we'll be collaborating with the Portland. We're going to be inviting the middle school and high school GSAs to collaborate with us on that, as well as some other groups. So more news will come about that soon. But I think that those are the main pieces from the Solidarity Committee for now. And our meetings are every second Tuesday of the month. Everyone is welcome, of course. It's a public meeting, 7 p.m. at the Senior Center. And people can always contact us for more information. I think that's it.
Thank you, Liz. And I just want to say, I think most of the selectmen attended Juneteenth, and I just want to thank you and the entire Solidarity Committee for all the work. I know how hard you all worked for that event, and then to have that rain come and to have that disturbance was very unfortunate, but I was so impressed that you pulled it off in such a great way at the Senior Center. It really, really was a very nice event. So I just want to say thank you for all your work on that, and congratulations on the successful event.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being there and being part of it. It really meant a lot to us.
Thank you, Liz. So we'll see you soon. We'll see you next month.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Take care. All right. So next up, we'll move on to under old business appointments and reappointments. Do you have any appointments?
We have nothing.
Do you have any appointments?
No.
All right, we'll move on to new business. Proposed revision to field and facility rental policy. So in your packet, you have an updated policy that has recently been approved by the Parks and Rec Commission. Now our chair is here this evening, as well as our director of Parks and Recreation as well. I know they've both spent a lot of time on this, and I want to thank them for their work. And so this has been kind of a long time coming because, as you know, we've completed the Portland Rec Complex, which has been a couple of years now, I believe. And so with that, our rental policy did not factor in our new park. And because it's a public park, we do have to make it accessible to the public. And so this is one of those things that has to get done. And we wanted to do it in a way that was fair and prioritized the groups and organizations that needed to be prioritized, but also left room for the potential to rent the park under the right circumstances. And Andy, I don't know if you would like to come up and say anything. I think maybe it would be good if we maybe just read through the agreement. I don't know if we want to read it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. Would you like to take a look at it first and then ask questions? Would you like to read it?
Well, I'm wondering, are there changes? We have an agreement, the narrative. We also have the form. Are there changes in the form as well as the agreement?
Well, I believe so, Andy. The changes in the form would be to add the Portland Rec Complex as well. And I believe are the fees in the policy themselves, Andy, or are they in both?
Section 5.
Section 5. And actually, that's still blank, right?
Not on the most updated one.
Okay, let me.
I have a copy of the most updated one right here.
Yeah, for some reason, do you guys have numbers in there, or they?
No.
I think Michelle grabbed the wrong page. Do you have that, Andy? Because that would be. Yeah, if you want, do you want to go make some copies for the board?
Yeah, I'll give you guys this one out, I'll print off more.
Okay, thank you.
Just
Yes.
that page is.
Sorry about that, guys. So while Andy's doing that, I'm just gonna read this policy. I think it would be good just to read it, so we're all familiar with it, and then we can talk about it after. So I'm just gonna read the Town of Portland. This is the proposal before us tonight. This field facility use policy is for all organizations, groups, and individuals wishing to use fields and facilities under the supervision of the Portland Parks and Recreation Department. There is a separate facility policy and a separate rental request process for Riverfront Park Pavilion and band shell rentals. All organizations, groups, and individuals wishing to use town fields or facilities must submit a town Portland Field Facility Use Agreement application, pay any applicable fees, and supply proof of valid insurance policy to the Portland Parks and Recreation Department as outlined in Section 7 at the time of booking. No reservations will be made without this information. All groups that book these fields and facilities through the Parks and Recreation Department must supply rosters for all teams at least 1 week prior to the start of use. These rosters will be checked for current residency requirements as specified in Section 2. Section 1, General. The Town of Portland Grounds Department under Public Works is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of all town fields and parks located in the Town of Portland. A written schedule of all games and practices must be submitted 30 days prior to the use of fields to ensure proper reservations and field preparation. Any organization or group wishing to do work or buy items affecting any field or grounds, excuse me, shall present the idea in writing to the grounds department prior to purchasing or performing work. In the event of rain or any other inclement weather, the grounds department will make every effort to make all fields playable. If the grounds supervisor and/or Parks and Recreation director deem that fields are closed or unplayable, then an email will be sent to all scheduled users and the Parks and Recreation cancellation hotline will be updated. It is the responsibility of the contact person to inform all of their participants that games or practices are canceled. If the ground supervisor and/or Parks and Recreation director close a field or facility, then no play will be permitted until the ground supervisor and/or Parks and Recreation director assesses the field or facility and determines that the field or facility is allowed to be open. If rain or any inclement weather comes after employees leave for the day and no cancellation notice has gone out, then organizations, groups, and individuals must be prudent and consider the long-range effects of playing before going on a field. Examples of conditions that may require the alteration or cancellation of an activity are without limitation: standing puddles of water on the fields, footing that is unsure or slippery, ground that is waterlogged or squishy, grass that can be dislodged from the ground easily, lightning, severe weather storms, unsafe facility conditions. That's it. Uses that prove to be destructive or detrimental to the site. If rain persists for multiple days or there are very heavy downpours, then no games or practices shall be held until Parks and Recreation employees notify the organizations, groups, and individuals scheduled to use the fields or facilities. If an organization, group, or individual ignores this policy and goes on fields or grounds deemed unplayable, or if an organization's, groups, or individuals' field or facility usage result in excessive wear and tear or damage to a field or facility, then the organization, group, or individual will be held monetarily responsible for the required time and materials it takes the town of Portland to make all necessary repairs to the field or facility. An invoice and a report will be prepared and provided to the organization, group, or individual containing pictures of the field or facility damage, the amount of time and materials necessary for the repair, and the cost of the required materials. Section 2 is users. Please see Section 5 for applicable fees. Excuse me.
You want me to?
Yeah, would you like to take over for a little
Sure,
bit,
I-
Jen? Thank you.
Section 2 users, please see Section 5 for applicable fees. First priority for all field and facility rental requests will be given in this order. 1, Portland Parks and Recreation Department programs. 2, Portland Public School teams. 3, other Portland Board of Education activities. Second priority for all field and facility rental requests will be given in this order. 1, Portland Youth Leagues. 2, in-town nonprofit 501c3 groups comprised primarily of Portland residents. Please note that these leagues must belong to an affiliated state or national organization that is responsible for the administration of their sport, i.e. Little League. All teams must have at least 80% of their rosters to Portland residents. Third priority for all field and facility rental requests will be given in this order. 1, group made up of Portland residents or individuals who are Portland residents. 2, nonprofit 501c3 groups. Fourth priority for all field and facility rental requests will be given in this order. 1, for-profit clubs, groups, businesses, and associations for youth or adults. 2, non-residents and others. 3, special events, including but not limited to any and all events held beyond the regularly scheduled season of an organization or group, or an event that is held for a limited time on fields or facilities overseen by the Portland Parks and Recreation Department. If more than one organization, group, or individual requests the use of a field or facility at the same time, then the Portland Parks and Recreation Department will refer to the above priority list to determine which rental request, if any, will be approved. Section 3, conditions of use. The town of Portland is, in its sole and absolute discretion, reserves the right to decline rentals of the parks, facilities, or fields, or to cancel the rental of parks, facilities, or fields. Parks, facility, or fields can be reserved only in the name of an adult who represents an approved organization and who agrees in writing to be responsible for that organization's behavior on said property. Section 4, mandatory reservations. Organized athletic activities on town property are permitted only on a reservation basis. Persons not having a permit for the use of the park, facilities, or fields must give way at all times to a permit holder. Any group of 10 or more persons must submit a field facility use agreement application to the Portland Park and Recreation Department. All organizations, groups, or individuals must adhere to the published guidelines of the Portland Parks and Recreation Department and Town of Portland ordinances. There is no authorized usage of alcohol and tobacco products at any field or facility overseen by the Portland Parks and Recreation Department, with the exception of a permit for alcohol use issued by the Parks and Recreation Department for a riverfront park pavilion or band shell rentals. There is a separate facility policy and a separate rental request process for riverfront park pavilion and band shell rentals. Keep going.
Here is, if,
This is the part we needed to
this is
change,
the
right?
part, I have it, right, and
Okay.
Andy's actually passing out. Do you want, are you okay still reading? or
Yeah, I'll
just-
keep going if you
Yeah,
want.
If you don't mind, you're doing great.
Sure, all right.
Here,
Oh.
you need this, use this.
That's the one?
That's the one.
Section 5, rental requirements and fees. All interested parties wishing to rent a field facility must complete a field facility use agreement application. If approval of use is granted, then applicants must sign the rental fee within 5 business days of approval. Fees. First priority users are exempt from fees. Second priority users must pay at a rate of $50 per occurrence for a single field facility usage request, or a rate of $300 for a season-long reservation. Third priority users must pay a rate of $100 per occurrence for a single field facility usage request. Fourth priority users must pay a rate of $300 per occurrence for a single field facility usage request. And it says in italics, rental seasons are defined as spring, April 1st through June 30th, summer, July 1 through August 15th, and fall, August 16th through November 15th. Special event fees will be determined on a case-by-case basis on locations, extent of the event, and maintenance requirements. The Portland Park and Recreation Director will determine this fee when given requests. All organizations, groups, or individuals will be responsible for additional fees associated with their event, including but not limited to the mandatory presence of police or Parks and Recreation personnel at their event. Section 6, utility charges. The Parks and Recreation Director may decide that organizations, groups, or individual users will be charged for utilities, i.e. field lighting, but would inform the group requesting the use of field or facility of this during the reservation process. Section 7, insurance requirements. Any organization, group, or individuals using the field or facilities must supply the Portland Parks and Recreation Department with proof of liability insurance. If a vendor will be part of your event, then an event vendor application must be submitted to the First Selectman's office. Providing a certificate of insurance is a required part of the event vendor application. The Town of Portland requires a minimum of $1 million liability insurance, with the Town of Portland listed as additionally insured using this address: Town of Portland and Board of Education, P.O. Box 71, Portland, Connecticut. Proof of this insurance must be submitted to the Parks and Recreation Department at the time of booking. Section 8, cancellations and refund procedures. The Town of Portland, in its sole and absolute discretion, reserves the right to cancel permission for any organization, group, or individual to use a park, facility, or field if the purpose of such use is not considered to be in the best interest of the community, or if the organization's, groups, or individuals' use of the park, facility, or field is deemed to be detrimental or destructive to the park, field, facility, or field. If the town cancels a permit due to weather or field conditions, then all fees will be refunded if it is a one-day event. For season-long usage, a rescheduled date will be given. Please allow up to 15 business days for a refund to be issued. If police coverage or park maintenance coverage is required, then all fee structures and cancellation policies must be in accordance with their contracts with the Town of Portland. No refunds will be given in any amount for failure to show on a reserved rental date. If it is deemed necessary to cancel a permit due to a violation of town policy or town ordinances, then all user fees paid will automatically be forfeited. Section 9, additional supervision. The Town of Portland reserves the right to require any leasee or user to provide police protection when necessary. If deemed necessary, additional town personnel will be assigned by the Park and Recreation Director or the Public Works Director. Any resulting expense or cost will be paid by the lessee or user. And the final piece, Section 10, appeals process. All waiver requests to any provision of this policy are to be directed to the Park and Recreation Director. Appeals from the Parks and Recreation Director's decision can be made to the First Selectman within 7 days. A subsequent appeal to the Board of Selectmen can be made within 7 days of the First Selectman's decision. A hearing will be held at the next regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting. The decision of the Board of Selectmen will be final.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you taking over.
I could hear you were struggling.
I was struggling. All right. So this is the policy, and I don't know if any of the selectmen have questions for Andy or Karen who are here.
I've been through the process.
I know you have.
All the many variations and versions that we had along the way, and this has covered a lot of things that we had talked in the past that had to be resolved or identified, so it was a good job.
I think it's good. Speaking for somebody many years ago who was on the Parks and Rec crew that maintained the baseball fields especially, I like this a lot. I mean, I can remember with both the softball leagues and the Little League and the minor league, it was often thought that if it rained hard that afternoon, it was okay to come and just brush out the puddles and play. But as you probably know, every time you brush out a puddle, the puddle gets bigger next time and bigger again and bigger again. And it's a hard thing to explain to them, but I think you kind of have it in here. And I think that's important to maintain these fields and the quality of the fields, people have to do what's required of them or not do what they're supposed to be doing.
So I do want to point out that not only did Parks and Recreation vote on this, was it unanimous when you voted? It wasn't unanimous. And we also did have this run through by our town attorney as well, who has reviewed it and did make some edits to this policy. So I believe that the town has done its due diligence on this policy. So would anyone like to make a motion to
Yeah.
adopt?
I'd like to make a motion that we,
Oh, what about your changes?
gonna make the change in here. All right, that's a good point. So you have in here, all organizations must adhere to the guidelines. There's no authorized usage of alcohol, cannabis, or tobacco. I'm assuming cannabis also includes vaping.
Yes.
Right. Should it be added to clarify, or is that understood to be both?
That specifically was with that town attorney.
Andy, can you come up to the podium, please?
So the town attorney's looked at it and already,
Yes, the town attorney looked at that section, she looked at the whole thing, but that section specifically, I mean, I don't think it would necessarily hurt to add vaping, but I think cannabis kind of encompasses all of it, in my point of view.
But to your point, I do think that there are vapes that contain now nicotine and no
Yeah.
tobacco.
Yeah.
So, yeah, why don't, we can do that.
It's
I think
becoming
that's a-
more popular than smoking, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
I
not
think
stop
that's
it
a
now?
great
Yeah, I
suggestion.
agree.
Sure.
Perfect.
all right, cool.
Yeah.
That's easy enough.
But with the exception of that, though.
So we'll make that change. We're going to, on page 3, we will add vaping to the banned substances at the park, along with alcohol, cannabis, tobacco, and vaping products. So with that, can I have a motion to adopt this policy as amended?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the Town of Portland Field Facility Policy as read over the last 15 minutes.
And
With
amended.
with the addition of vaping added to section 4 of mandatory reservations and details.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion on this? Let's call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all.
Good job,
for your
guys.
work.
Got to be a
Yeah.
relief to get it all in place, huh?
Now what are you guys going to talk about?
Signs.
That was many years in progress, in progress.
All right. Next up, under new business, is a resolution for a bid waiver, JWC Environmental. This may look familiar to the selectmen, as we have talked about this before, and we actually have previously, if you may remember, a few months ago, done a bid waiver with this, and our Public Works Director, Ryan O'Halpin, is here this evening to discuss this. Ryan, would you like to come up? Do you have the here it is. So many papers.
Oh, yeah, I remember the washer monster.
Muffin.
It's a muffin, yeah.
How's everyone doing?
Good, how are you?
So, yeah, I was here in February. We had 3 components of the Muffin Monster breakdown in February. It was the auger, the gearbox, and then we replaced the elbow past the gearbox. And we ordered everything after that. It was 10 to 12 week lead time, so 3 months later, we had the tech scheduled. He came in to install it and noticed there was another issue with the actual grinder piece of the Muffin Monster. That's before it goes into the auger. The auger's the dewatering system. It cleans the rags and dewaters after they're chopped up. But it's something our guys couldn't see because it's, you know, it's this big mechanical machine, and they wouldn't notice, but the teeth have worn down to the point where the tech had told us we only have a few months before he's thinking that it's going to break down again. Basically, it's like a shredder, and once the teeth aren't shredding anymore, it's going to clog up and not work. So this is I know you guys probably have questions if I'm going to be back here in a few months with another piece of it. And this is like the last main mechanical piece. There are other ancillary electrical piping. There's one or two other motors on it that could go, but this is the main this is the last big mechanical piece that'll be replaced. So it'll be, 85% brand new.
Did we look at the other 15% now?
So yeah, he checked everything out, and everything else should be fine for now. But yeah, that's for the most part. Everything's checked out.
I think it would help if someone were to move adoption of the resolution and read this,
I will.
just so people understand what we're doing here.
I think I did the last one, I'll do this one.
Thanks, Ralph.
Resolution, Board of Selectmen, Town of Portland, Connecticut, July 19, 2023. Request for a waiver of bid requirements, JWC Environmental. Whereas the Town of Portland Water Pollution Control Facility, WPCF, purchased a screenings washer monster system in 2015 from JWC Environment to grind, wash, compact, and de-water debris captured by a screen. And whereas during a gearbox, auger, and surrounding parts replacement in June 2023, additional mechanical issues have been identified by the JWC environmental technician. And whereas a quote for repairs and improvements has come in at approximately $15,800 from JWC Environmental. And whereas JWC Environmental is the manufacturer of the replacement parts needed for the screenings washer monster system. Now therefore be it resolved that in the best interest of the town, pursuant to section 1208 subsection 7 of the Portland Charter, the Board of Selectmen hereby waives the bidding requirements of section 1208 of the Portland Charter as it pertains to utilizing JWC Environmental as the vendor to provide for repairs and improvements needed to the WPCF screenings washer monster system. And be it further resolved that the Board of Selectmen authorizes First Selectman Ryan J. Curley to act on behalf of the Town of Portland to enter into and agreements related to these repairs and improvements.
I'll second that.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion on this?
Remind me again, what, the first group of parts that we put up, what was the cost of that?
$35,200
So
approximately.
now it's another 15 grand. But at the time, I remember we discussed what would be the cost of fully replacing that machine.
So the original, I didn't have a quote on fully replacing that machine at the time. I still don't, just because I'm not going to look into that, being that we replaced more than half of it.
You're right.
Originally, we bought it for I think it was between $120,000 and $140,000.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we put that on the record, because the money that we put forward already, we've expended that, and they've installed those. And it seems like we're chasing stuff around here, but this is, in my opinion, this is certainly better than paying that huge fee for a new machine when this can do the jobs.
Yeah, and that was also to install the piping, the electrical at the time, everything that goes along with putting that in place where it was next to the bar screen. The bar screen is what feeds the screenings washer monster, so there may be issues with that in the next couple of years, but that's a separate system, so to say. That was kind of on its own prior to us getting this machine.
Good question, good point. Any other discussion? A motion's been made and seconded, so I will call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Ryan, while you're up there, do you just want to tell the board real quickly about, I know we've had some updates on our fuel pump, and we've also had some updates on our fire alarm system at the town garage.
Yes, so I'll start with the fire alarm system. I got an email today. They're back on site tomorrow and should have the system up and running by the end of the week. They were waiting on a control panel, which set them back about a month. But yeah, we should have that up and running, which is exciting. Outside of that, the fuel pump management system was also installed last week and wired up this week on Monday and Tuesday. Monday they did the diesel pump, Tuesday they did the gas pump, and I talked to the software technician this afternoon, and he's just trying to coordinate with Petrovend, getting the old data turned on to the cloud because it's a cloud-based system for the new system, and then training for Cheryl, myself, and then relaying that message to everyone using the new system. So that'll probably be a couple weeks, but it's in motion and should all come together finally.
Thanks, Ryan.
Good news.
Yeah, really good news. So if you notice, I think there's a theme where a lot of the things that we've been talking about for a long time are now, basically they're all happening at once, I feel like. So we're keeping Ryan plenty busy in the Public Works office. So thank you for all your work, Ryan. You're doing a good job.
This is really, I think we're really just finishing up, completing the delays caused by COVID is really a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Anything else you got, Ryan?
I don't know if you gave everyone an update on the sidewalk project.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
Are you talking our former?
The connectivity,
The one that's out to bid right now?
The one that's out to bid, yeah.
Yeah, you can, I know we had a resident on Riverside that did speak at public comment about that, but yeah, if you want to give a brief update on the project that's currently out to bid, yeah.
Yeah, so it went out to bid on the 11th, so 8 days ago, and it's due back on August 2nd. And we have a meeting on it July 26th to go through any questions contractors may have. And yeah, it's exciting to finally get that project going.
Is that something you anticipate being done this year?
Yes,
Completely done this year?
completely done this year.
Okay.
And what are the streets involved?
This is free. It starts on, well, it continues the sidewalk on Freestone.
Goes past Portland
And-
Electric?
It stays
From
on,
Cross Street, right? That's why you
Yes.
stopped
Yeah.
the pavement at Cross Street.
So it'll stay on the south side of Freestone, continue there to High Street, then both sides of High Street will have sidewalk completed to the corner of 66, crosswalk there, and then right around Top Dog, we're gonna have a sidewalk loop onto Airline Ave, and then as an alternate, due to just funding concerns, Riverside, going down Riverside and then to Chatham Court, but the bus station at Chatham Court will be done as part of the base bid.
Nice.
So yeah, we're excited. This has been a long time coming on this sidewalk project. We have another sidewalk project that I'm going to get into in a little bit, and we're going to be talking about another sidewalk project. So sidewalks are pretty topical these days.
And
So-
being used
And
tremendously
being
too.
used. Yeah. All right, well, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the update. This is good
Yeah,
stuff.
no problem. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to next under new business. Excuse me, there's a frog in my throat this evening. But this is item C. It's a discussion on the School Facilities Study Committee report. Now, this board and the Board of Education had a joint meeting back in May where we went over the presentation from Dr. Britton on his report that the School Facilities Committee had worked over the course of about 2 years to put together. And over the past couple of months, the Board of Education has had a couple great conversations regarding the report and their comments on the plan. And I thought it was appropriate now, given a little bit of time since our joint meeting, for the Board of Selectmen to weigh in and have a chance to weigh in on the proposed plan and get the board's feedback. Now, I will say that we are missing 2 of our members this evening, so I don't know how fair it would be to have a full conversation. I do believe that this is such an important topic that we do really need to have the full board with us on this. But I wanted, so first in your packets, you have the full report that Dr. Britton wrote, and he is on Zoom too. If anyone has any questions for Dr. Britton, and Laurel is here as well. Thank you, Laurel, for coming tonight. And I see Tim Lavoie is here as well. So there's a lot of interest certainly on the Board of Education side and on the town side for this project. And we all know that we have to do something with our buildings. We cannot just let them go to the point of neglect. So decisions are coming. This plan before you was worked on by the Facilities Committee, as I stated. They worked very hard on this plan. I don't know if this will be the end result, but this is what they have recommended. So I will just want to open it up to the board to see if you have any questions for Dr. Britton or for Laurel or Tim or any Board of Education member who's with us, or any feedback, comments that you'd like to state on the record. Or if not, we can always reconvene, and I would like this on our August 2nd meeting as well, and hopefully everybody can attend. I don't know if anyone's going to be away, but hopefully we'll have a full.
I was going to ask, I am on vacation, but I'm only at the shore, so I will come up for it.
Thank you, John. This is an important topic, and I know we need to get some answers soon.
Yeah, I think without going into the full details of the plan, because probably should have the whole full board to talk, but I think the most critical thing that we have to be worried about is whatever is put forward has to pass, because a delay, if it's rejected, would be devastating to the cost, first of all. So, you know, and then certainly Ryan, you and I have talked about it. I don't know if there's some strategy we can use in order to get some feedback, to really get a sense of what the public is thinking about it, if they're going to be open to this idea or any of the whatever the ideas have been discussed. It's not easy to get public comment, because I went through it with our last big project, and it's a challenge. But I think that's something we probably should discuss is, you know, how can we get some feedback to get a comfort level of what we think something being put forward, how successful it can be, because failure is not an option, as they say.
And the other thing for me is, I know, I've always said to everybody that my goal sitting here is to represent everybody. And that is young single folks, families with kids, but it's also older folks. And everybody, we all know, this kind of hooks into what Ralph was saying, we all know that everybody has their concerns, their agendas, their requirements. And, you know, growing up in town, I saw many a family who was all about sports and education until their last child graduated high school. Then suddenly their desires flipped. They have another priority. And that's the hard thing we have to balance here. And how do we get that feedback to see where people want to go, if there's a huge pushback, or because it's concerning to me. I mean, I know we want to do the best we can for our kids, but we have to recognize that there are other folks in town too. So
yeah, I just want to add to that as well. I think this is going to be the most important decision I think we make as a board, along with the Board of Ed. What we do, I think it'll be the biggest cost thing that the town has done. And in talking to people and talking to people on the Board of Ed and others and parents, I mean, it's something a lot of people are interested in. They're aware of this. My feeling is the town probably is split like the board was in terms of 5-3. I think most people I've talked to, slight majority, like the idea of just closing one school, right? Because it's easier. 2 schools seems more complicated to people, but I don't know if having one big campus would ultimately be better, but maybe not as possible. But I'm conflicted. I think both could work, but for me, the biggest decisions will be the cost at the end of the day, 1 or 2 schools closed, and how much of a disruption, how will the transition work? But I think there'll be a solid minority in town that will struggle with that, either legacy schools, it's been in town for a while, closing 2 might be hard for some people to swallow, even though their kids may not be in school. Maybe having campus is better ultimately, because you can build the school the way you want to and alleviate some of the issues, but it is going to be a complicated one. It's going to be a lot of people involved. I think it's going to be an expensive thing, but it is something I think that'll be the most important thing our town does over the next 10 to 15 years, however we decide this.
The other question that I had, and I'm glad I dug through this, but my question hasn't been answered. And maybe Dr. Britton's on the line. This project addresses Valley View, Gildersleeve, Biss, essentially. Now, we all know, because my kids were in high school when the addition went on at the high school, and everything that went along with that, the concrete and the dust and everything. But those buildings, those 2 buildings there have to be at the point, or in the very near future, where they're going to need required upgrades too. And a lot of the problems that we have with the buildings here now are upgrades that we just didn't make timely enough and didn't continue to make. Are those costs considered in this? Or I didn't find them, so those costs are over and above the costs we're talking about here. I try to look at this holistically, and that's, when we're talking about water, we're talking about sewers, we've got a lot of expenses, but that was the other thing that I realized, is that we had a great analysis here and a lot of information here, but who knows what the costs are going to be to maintain the middle school and high school, and probably be hitting us on or about the time that we're breaking ground with this. So, I mean, again, this all just comes back to trying to be devil's advocate here and what the taxpayers in Portland want.
I think along that line, though, the thing to note about that is it's true, it's really focused in on the lower levels of the schools, but I think the only concern I have is, yes, it's a big number, but if you go to them, whatever it is, a year from November, if you're going there and you're getting them and they're voting, and then you come up and you go, we got these expenses, and now, I don't know where it falls in terms of the cycle, and you're coming back a year later, putting another referendum on there for more money, I don't know, that's a challenge.
That's exactly how I got to that thought process.
If you do one vote, that's an ungodly big number. You hope you get through it, maybe I'll vote. It's just that second vote, I just don't know if you get that success on that second vote. And so that's the challenge of keeping them separate. And I understand why it was done and how it was handled, but that's the challenge, because again, you need to get the votes, you need people to agree, and I don't know if they took a bite that first time and they saw their increase in their taxes, they may not be as happy about doing a second vote for more money. So that's just an observation too.
I agree with what John said, because if you're asking them to vote for this and what's going on, it's either going to be when they break ground or they cut the ribbon to open a new school that you're going to say, okay, now that that's done, we have to look at the middle school, high school, or soon thereafter. So we need to kind of know what that's going to be when this is going on, because it's going to be in the back of our mind of this is next, and everyone needs to know what that's going to be.
And this isn't, not to belittle at all the work that was done here. I mean,
No.
this study group worked their tails off. But I really want to find a way to get, I think what you said, Ralph, is to get the town residents to really understand what the issue is, what the work was that was done.
I don't want the residents to think that this solves everything.
Yeah.
This solves the problem at 3 schools,
Right.
not repairs at 2 other schools.
Right.
So this isn't for the entire school system. It's for just over half of it.
Yeah.
I have a question for either Laurel or is Tim still on as well?
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, you had a lot of feedback in the meetings that you did. What was the feedback that you guys got from residents? Were there concerns reflecting what we're saying? What was the feedback, if you could?
Yeah, Laurel, if you
Yeah,
wouldn't mind
please.
coming up
Yeah.
too, thank you.
Your question was about feedback from the community.
Yes.
You know, we as a board didn't get a whole lot of community feedback. I've certainly gotten feedback from parents directly, and it's a little bit all over the place. The feedback that we received as a board was directly from teachers, a handful of teachers who are also parents in the district, who were offering feedback about the committee's report and speaking in favor of a one-school model for the elementary school. But in terms of like feedback I've personally been receiving from parents, it's all over the place. I mean, I'm assuming it's probably similar to what you're hearing. Charles may be able to speak to the point that you brought up, John. Charles may be able to speak to this a little bit better, but that we do know what the needs are at the high school complex. The Sightlines report that we received indicates that we're looking at around $11 million in repairs. They broke it down into I think it was like a 1 to 3 year timeline, a 3 to 5 year, 5 to 10 year, and those repairs for the middle school, high school were falling. Most of those are falling in the 5 to 10 year range. The way that the committee chose to address those repairs in this report was to not include that lump sum in the potential future bond, but to I believe their proposal was to use the savings generated by reducing our elementary schools. We're talking about projected $20 million over the course of 20 years in operational and administrative savings at the schools. And their proposal, I believe, is to make an intentional, concerted effort to set aside that $800,000 or $900,000 a year and put it in a fund to make those improvements at the high school and also to make some of the capital improvements in the town. At the Board of Education, we had a conversation a month or so ago where board members agreed with your concerns and expressed similar concerns that there's no guarantee that that money gets put into that fund and that it gets saved for that purpose. So there's a shared concern, I would say, from Board of Education members that over time, those funds aren't a guarantee, and we end up in a situation where we still have $11 million in repairs.
And costs creep. too.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, I would say the Board of Education shares your concern, and I understand why the committee chose to address the high school repairs in that manner, because I think the idea of taking a bonding package and adding in 11 million to include the high school, middle school improvements, it makes the number significantly higher, and I think they were looking to handle it in a way that would be most palatable to voters. But yeah, we share your concern.
Yeah, you answered that very well. That's exactly how I remember it too.
I don't know whether I answered your question
Yeah,
though, Mike.
That was good.
All
Thank you.
right.
While you're there, Laurel, I mean, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, is that you, Charles?
Yeah, it's me. Can I just chime in for a quick second?
Yes, please.
Please.
Yeah, Laurel, I'm glad you pointed that out. That's exactly right. The number for the high school repairs and all of the capital improvements that need to be done were provided to us by the Sightlines report and confirmed by Prior. The number was closer to $15 million over a 10-year period. And the way that the committee looked at that was exactly as Laurel described you, that to add $15 million into a bonding package, it's already going to be, $35, $40 million would be frightening, right? That would potentially be, get a lot of people upset in terms of the impact on the mill rate. So the thinking of the committee was, well, let's look to overhead savings by reducing administrative overhead, reducing operating costs, reducing personnel, right? We would be reducing all types of non-instructional classroom teaching positions and be generating approximately $780,000 to $800,000 a year. The idea would be to use that to fund a capital improvement cycle, both for high school, middle school, but also for other town projects, right? So the idea and the recommendation contained in the report is, that will be a political decision, when, hey, you have that $800,000 in the first year of a school being closed, don't use that to pay down the debt or keep the mill rate lower, but instead use that to begin funding a capital improvement cycle and chipping away at those projects in secondary schools or other town projects that might need to be addressed.
Yeah, and I do remember those discussions, so I'm aware of that. I mean, the only challenge you have is you're sitting right now is that 1 to 3 years, how far are we already into that 1 to 3 years? And then you got all this construction and build that pushes you out, what's it, a year and a half more? You're talking you're 3 years out before you see any of those funds theoretically come in, and you haven't touched a single thing on that list. So again, that's the challenge.
And it also requires discipline, right? You're banking on future boards having the discipline to set aside those funds every year, and that's a big ask.
Because if you hold the mill rate flat on what we're currently spending, you still have to add in the bonds on what we're taking out.
Right.
So you're still paying more. So whether you bond it or you do it this way, you're still paying essentially the same amount.
Well, the bonds are going to increase the bottom line for taxpayers anyway.
Correct.
But the savings that Charles is talking about, in order to leverage and save that savings, we got to pay for it.
Yes.
So it's hard. You got two sides of the street with that argument.
So one thing I will say, and I think that we're at a place where I think it's time that we form a committee to look at what would happen if we were to close Gildersleeve. Because the one thing that we don't want to do is we do not want to create a center school situation where we have a town asset that is vacant for 20 years and just sitting there. So whatever decision this board and the Board of Education makes, we have to make sure that Gildersleeve, if it were to close or be repurposed, we have a plan, and that plan is funded too, because estimates of demolishing Gildersleeve are $3 million. So that's got to come from somewhere. And I don't want this board or any board to make decisions on new schools without fixing or making sure that we leave what we have in place or have a plan for it that's funded. So those are things, I think we're at the point where we can and we should have a committee that studies what would happen in Gildersleeve. And while they're at it, they should probably take a look at the biz as well. And because it doesn't hurt to ask the question.
I would also recommend that you do some archive digging at the town hall. Because you struck on something there, Ryan, that's kind of been hanging in the back of my brain. Many years ago, probably 25 or 30 years ago now, we had a building utilization committee because we don't have a good track record in town. We had Central School closed, which is now the town hall, which sat vacant for many years. The roof was collapsing, the windows were boarded up, it was a mess. We had a building under the bridge, which right next to the dog pound, which was the senior center for a while, that sat vacant. And quite honestly, that's one of my concerns. No matter what plan we decide to go with, we have to be able to put it down in blood. We have to have a plan for what we do with these buildings. We cannot have them sitting and rotting away because, quite honestly, some of the savings that we're talking about gaining from these buildings is the savings that we pay to heat them and run the electricity. And I can tell you, because I live next door to the town hall, when it was central school, once you turn off that heat and you turn off that electricity, the building starts to come apart.
Oh, they decay fast.
Yeah, the floors buckled, it was a mess. So there's a lot to this. We've got to learn from our mistakes and not repeat them. And that's, what I was going to ask you, Laurel, is, has the Board of Ed given any thought, the thing that we started this conversation with, what the best way to reach out to really get public feedback? Have you talked about that at all?
The board hasn't talked about that. Ryan and I have had some discussions about that, and I know Ryan has a couple of ideas that he's exploring. And I believe the Board of Education would be very interested in gathering community feedback. As part of this process, Charles and Lou Pear went out and conducted, 16 or something, focus groups with target populations in their community, and it was a huge effort, and they did a really great job getting feedback. But that was over a year ago. We're in a new place. We need new information, and I think that Ryan has a couple of good ideas that are worth exploring about how we can get more widespread community input.
I would say that exercise and the exercise of putting committees together need to be done in tandem, because a lot of what these committees are going to base their decision on is going to have a lot of bearing on the general feedback we're getting from the taxpayers.
That's a good point.
We need something, I think, that, casts a broader net to contact more residents. Because, they did 16 focus groups, but that was, maybe a couple hundred people? That's nothing out of a population of 9,200.
And I always say, we see it every budget season, where we work very hard every year to publicize, to get the word out at every avenue possible. And still, every year, I have people coming up to me saying,
I didn't know anything about it.
What happened? What is this budget vote? I heard nothing about it. And it's always very frustrating and I think you're right. This is such an important decision for the town. We have to make sure that the town and its residents as a whole are all aware of what's going on and have an opportunity to voice their opinion on it.
And I think we need, as we're doing that, maybe I'm way too far ahead, but as we come up with a method or methods to get this public opinion, I think we have to make sure, I know it's the 21st century and everybody is very into technology and using all these different methods to gather data, but I think one group of folks that we need to make sure we don't leave out are the elderly, and not all of them are tech savvy. So we may want to look at getting the same questions out there, but maybe in two different methods.
Sure.
So that, the folks that don't feel comfortable with a electronic response may have another way to get the response to us.
I agree.
Because a vote is a vote, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it
they're just as
impacts
important,
everybody.
so.
A lot of families in town with children, I understand. I got grandson in town myself, but I also have an almost 86-year-old mom, and I understand their concerns too. So it's hard to look at that whole picture and make sure you do it properly, but I think we have to make a concerted effort here to do that.
I agree. I totally agree with that, and so I think this is the first step. I wanted to have a conversation this evening with you, but again, we are missing two selectmen, and I do value their opinion on this as well, and so I think that we should revisit this at our August 2nd meeting, and in the meantime, let me do some research as far as potential options to reach out. I had some ideas, and I'm working on others, but there's more to come on that. I don't want to get ahead of myself until I have something more concrete. But I think this is a good place to leave the conversation for now. I think we all know we all want to do something, and we're all taking steps to get there, but there is more work to be done. So,
and I've shot my mouth off a lot tonight. I just want to say kudos to the Board of Ed and to Superintendent Britton and the committee, because I know you guys did 2 years of really hard work. And that really matters. But we really just need to ensure that the message we get out there, everybody gets the message and everybody gives us a response. So.
Thank you, Laurel.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Britton. All right, next, under new business, so we will revisit that at August 2nd. Next, under new business, is a Connecticut Connectivity Grant application and program. Now, you may recall Ryan O'Halpin was here earlier to discuss our previous connectivity grant back in 2020, which is out to bid now, and we're very excited about it. And you may recall that the town was awarded a Small Town Economic Assistance Program grant last year, which is also called STEEP, and we received $400,000 from that last year with a $100,000 match from the town to extend and replace sidewalks on Main Street in Portland. Now, that's one of the comments that I hear most frequently from residents in town is, you got to do something about these sidewalks, they are aging, and there's always been debate. Our ordinances do state that it is the homeowner's responsibility, but this body and the town is not forced repairs on people. And also, we've looked at other ways where we're not using taxpayer dollars and we don't affect our mill rate in town, but we are able to replace sidewalks, and I think that grant funding is an appropriate source to replace sidewalks in town, and the thought is to replace the most walked and traversed areas of town first before we take care of other areas, and believe me, there are some other areas that need it as well that are on my list. But last year, our grant that we received got us from Arvid Road, and recently Jacobson and Associates has gotten back with their engineering and design on this, and their estimates get us with this STEEP grant from Arvid Road to 510 Main Street, and that's approximately where the driveway to the Gatta's Berry Farm is. You may know that, it's right on Main Street there. So that's going to get us a decent way, but it doesn't get us to Indian Hill Avenue, which is where I think we need to be, because that would be replacing all of the sidewalks on Main Street, and then we can focus on other areas. And this grant that was announced by DOT, Connecticut DOT, is another connectivity grant that I am planning on. I'm in the process of writing this grant application. And I have designs here. You can see, this is from Jacobson. I want to thank Jacobson and Associates. The engineers over there have done a very good job putting this together. We have I think, a competitive bid package or a competitive grant package to submit this coming Friday. But I thought it would be good to have the board weigh in on this, and actually, I think what was done in the past, and I pulled a previous Board of Selectmen, you may remember, Mike, you may remember from back in 2020, there was a motion, and I have the notes here, to endorse the concept plan for the Connecticut Connectivity Grant. So I think this will go in the minutes of tonight's meeting, and I will put this in our package, in our grant package, to show that there is a public support on this body, as well as I've reached out to various stakeholders in town for letters of support. And I want to thank Kathy Heron and John Hall, who have both recently written letters that will go into this grant application as well. Certainly, Kathy is with the Complete Streets in Portland, so this is near and dear to her heart. And as is John Hall as well. He was very excited when I told him about this. So I want to thank both of them for their support. But I wanted to just get your opinion on the board to see. I think we're all in agreement here that this is a priority. There is no match to the town on this. We are looking for $612,000 is the estimate from Jacobson, and this grant application you can get awarded of up to $800,000. So this would be a $612,000.
When is the award date? Do we know?
The application is due this Friday at 4 p.m. So I will be
Get busy.
this is priority
Wow.
A, BC right now,
Okay.
for me.
And when would they be awarding that, do we know?
About 60 days, I think,
Oh,
after.
okay.
So 30 to 60 days, I think.
Do we, so does this get us to where we want to be on Main Street, do we believe?
This completes Main Street. This would get us from 510 Main Street to Indian Hill Avenue. So
That would do it.
that would do it. That's been the goal.
And we're from the Aragoni Bridge right down to Indian Hill Avenue, essentially.
Exactly. So this would be a very big win for the town. And the best part is that last year, when I asked Jacobson to do the design for the steep grant, I asked them to keep going and just do Main Street. So we're going to have the designs. We should, if we are awarded, be able to go out to bid very quickly. We won't have to wait, a long time for designs because we have the designs.
Do the designs include removal of any trees
I have,
that,
yep.
maybe impacting the sidewalk now?
I haven't gotten, I just was sent these concepts, or these
Honestly,
designs.
having walked that many times, I think there are, like two.
I can think of one right off the bat.
Nope. Yeah, there's one where you feel like you're going up a ramp and back down the
Well,
other side.
There's like a 4-foot tree that touches the sidewalk.
Yeah.
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 So I think that's a great point, Bobby, and we do need to look at that. And that's something I'll have to reach out to Jacobson and ask and see. I don't have the answer right now. I
Okay.
do have this, if anybody would like to take a look, you're welcome to look at the designs here. I can pass it around.
With the one we have now, do you know I know you know the address, do you know the rough distance, like how far we're going?
I don't have exactly. And these are all estimates now.
Mhm.
In the past, we have gotten lucky with bidding and we've been able to do more sidewalks once we get started, but it's hard to say. So I do feel somewhat comfortable with our town engineers and their recommendations. I think they're being conservative with this. So it's better while we have these grant opportunities to make sure that we ask for what we need and we don't have to go back to the well or use town resources to finish it. So it's really important that we get this done right in the application so that should we get funded, we're ready to go and we can complete this.
Yeah, that's great. Obviously, in my 6 years here, we've talked a lot about sidewalks, and in the absence of going and having homeowners contribute, the onus really falls on the state on Main Street. And using grant money or whatever strategies we've used have been good because it really has had minimal impact on the taxpayers directly. I mean, there is indirect, with grants, there's money that comes from everybody, but it's been a great strategy for us then, that's exciting to think. Because I remember when we first started out and we first got that first set of money to start working on Main Street, and to think that with this, we'd actually make it to the end, that would be really awesome.
And it's worth noting that between the steep grant last year and what this estimate is about $1.1 million that we will be spending on sidewalks, grant money, but they're not cheap. Sidewalks are not cheap, and anytime we can get state funding to, now keep in mind, we believe that the state installed these sidewalks and they're in the state, right away there, so some of me thinks it's, we asked for state funding because I do think it's
Yeah,
partially
I
the
think our
state.
argument holds up because of really what they should be handling it, so they are indirectly, well, with the grant you achieve that.
Yes. So with that, would anyone like to make a motion to endorse the concept plan for the Connecticut Connectivity Grant?
I'd love to make a motion to endorse this connectivity grant for Main Street.
And I will second the motion.
Yeah.
Great, thank
Hey,
you.
just to get back to the question a minute ago, I just went on maps and I put in from 510 Main Street to Gildersleeve Bottle Shop, just to kind of give us, it is 1.2 miles according to this.
Nice.
So a motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? That's great. Motion carries. Thank you all, and So this is great. I'll keep you posted. I really, it'll be interesting to see how the grants are awarded this time. Some years they are more competitive than others. I'm not sure how this year is shaping up, but we're competing with every other town in the state. So we're trying to write a good application. And
I'm trying to think, we've obviously used a lot of grants and replaced a lot of sidewalks. And that could be looked at in the grant process as, well, let's give the money to somebody else. But there's got to be a way you can flip that. And you can show that, this is just another part of a major project that this town has undertaken. So maybe we can get a few letters of support just from local residents who walk their children at night. Just something like that.
And yes, and I did post on social media today asking for support, and I know they're out there. I know they're out there, and people really do want this. And if we make nicer sidewalks, people use them. They exercise more. They're out. It's a healthier lifestyle, and we can help the town achieve that. So I think it's a great, and I thank you guys all for supporting this. So that's all I have on this. I did have a public input. I don't see anyone here. If anybody would like to comment on sidewalks, we'll have to get Dave out there walking, I guess.
He doesn't have to walk anymore. He just got his driver's license.
Exactly. All right, so we'll move on to item E, which is refunds of excess payments. There's only one this evening.
Make a motion for a refund of excess payments to Amy M. LeMay, $59.17.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. All right. Next up is status and committee reports. I have a few announcements this evening, so I'm just going to go through this list briefly. So you may have seen our composting program, our pilot program is now live. Bags, our compostable bags are available at the town hall and at the town transfer station. This program's been working out well. We want people to use these bags and compost and reduce our municipal waste. So thank you to the board for supporting this. And it really does look nice. It's right on Sand Hill Road, and you can. Have you been up there, John?
I saw it. Actually, when I was coming out of the station the other day, I saw a couple people pulled over and putting stuff in the bins. I don't want to even jinx this by bringing up the issue, but where those cans are sitting, I'm just concerned about animals, maybe bears or something getting into those. So we may want to give some thought down the road, if this works out, to at least maybe putting a small chain link area with a gate where those things are, but we'll see.
We did talk with Glastonbury about that. They had not had any issues with because that was one of our first.
Yeah, we seem to have a lot of bears.
So we're monitoring this, and should we have any problems, we will address them. But
with that program, did we ever find out if we get a number for how many pounds that they take away from us?
Yeah, a number.
Do they weigh it?
I don't have that information, but I believe they do keep track of that.
Okay.
I'm sure Ryan would know if he would.
It would just be nice to know after the first few months, see if it stays steady, is it increasing?
Yeah. I'll get that information.
Is it worth it?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And we will revisit this and talk about that, absolutely. So next up, the EDC, the Economic Development Commission, met last Wednesday. I went with them to take a tour of Main Street. I know you couldn't make it, but we had a good time. We walked Main Street and we saw all of the businesses. There's 22 businesses that are participating in the EDC and River Valley Garden Club decoration contest of Main Street. They've done an amazing job. So please visit these businesses and take a look for yourself. It's a big difference on Main Street. It really dresses it up, and we're really thankful to everyone who participated and the River Valley Garden Club for putting this program together. Last week, GZA was at the Portland Rec Complex doing the pump testing for our 2 new wells that were installed. I'm told it's looking very nicely. The preliminary numbers and figures looked good, but we don't have any concrete information yet. So I am expecting a full report from GZA in a few weeks. Once they get their water testing back, we'll know the water quality, as well as they have to do their calculations to decide exactly how much, or determine how much output these wells can provide us. So stay tuned on that, but it is, look, fingers crossed, let's just put it that way. We had our summer kickoff event last week. I want to thank Jesse Ravicki and Youth and Family Services for working and putting that together along with our Portland Library. The first summer concert was last week, which was a great time. Mixed Signals was
Well
there.
attended,
It was
yeah.
very well attended. Unfortunately, yesterday's concert was rained out, but we will be back, weather permitting, next Tuesday. So I hope to see you all at that. The track replacement at the high school is moving along at a very good pace. They, I believe, are faster than they had anticipated. They completed the milling in one day last week, and we have about what Bob Shea estimates to be about $15,000 worth of millings from the track that are now at the town storage for use in town. So we're repurposing those millings, which is going to be a savings to the town down the road, which is nice. Right now, the concrete, there's a concrete base. You may remember it's a post-tension track that is going in. That concrete is slated to be installed the first week of August, with the top surface installed the first week of September. So it does need to cure a little bit, but we are moving over there, and they still will need to do drainage and fencing and all that after September. So we're still in line for, I'm hoping, early October, which would be really nice. I know that would be nice for you guys. Maybe, I don't want to say September, we'll stick with any time in October, I think would be nice for us. So that's moving forward. Ryan O'Halpin mentioned the sidewalks on Lower Main Street. That project is out to bid. We're excited about that, and we believe we can get that done this season. So stay tuned on that. I have an update on Brainerd Place from our building official, Pete Wilsey. And I'm going to read that just so you guys are all aware, because he did a nice write-up for me today. But before I do that, I'm going to just mention the fire alarm system we talked about is getting set up this week. The fuel pumps, all the mechanical work is in at our fuel pump station at the town garage, and we're just waiting on, as Ryan said, the software, or not the software, but getting everyone trained and up to speed on the technology aspect of it. I do have, and then our senior center kitchen is nearing completion. If you get a chance, stop by, say hi to our new senior center director. There's a meet and greet coming up. I believe it's the 24th at noon.
Yeah.
So stop by, say hi to Sarah, and check out our new kitchen while you're over there. It looks great. They really done a nice job with it. So I was pretty impressed when I saw it.
You triggered a question I had in my head earlier, and I just want to ask before I lose it. It's a kind of an update. I saw the announcement about the Ralph Paley Award scheduled for September.
Yes.
What is are they accepting applications now, recommendations now?
I believe so. I believe they are, but I'd have to look that up.
They haven't
They haven't posted.
posted anything.
Okay.
Usually they post a number of weeks when they
Okay.
accept them.
Okay,
It should be coming soon if it's not.
I've had a question about when that's timed.
Okay.
Okay.
And then some unfortunate news. I'm going to read the Brainerd update in a second, but I do want to report that Jesse Ravicki, who was here earlier, did submit his resignation letter yesterday, which is a big loss for us. He accepted a job in a field that he's very passionate about, and it's the right move for him. But unfortunately, we're losing a very talented employee, and we certainly wish Jesse the best. But I did want to let you guys know we have posted for that position, so we will be looking for a new director of Youth and Family Services. And then, so this is Pete Wilsey's update on the Brainerd Place project. So Pete says that construction continues at Brainerd Place. Numerous inspections have been made. Peter Wilsey, our building official, has been visiting the site sometimes daily as concerns have arisen. The foundation and parking garage for Building A, the 3-story apartment building at Perry and Marlborough Street, is almost complete. There is a section in the rear of the building which had been used to bring the construction equipment in and out of the building, is now framed and ready for the concrete to be poured. The floor of the garage has been poured. They are currently setting up the framework for the ceiling of the garage and floor of the first floor. This will be done in stages. On Thursday morning, July 20th, they will be pouring a section of ceiling and floor on the Perry Avenue side. The building permit for the shell-only Building D, the Starbucks retail building, has been approved. The foundation for Building D has been poured. They will be working on the concrete floor once the concrete work for Building A has been completed. Before Building D opens, a couple of items have to be completed. First, a retaining wall needs to be built around the Hart Jarvis house, since there is a ground elevation difference between the house and Building D. Second, the openings in the Hart Jarvis house have to be enclosed and the exterior needs to be finished. They are proposing to use the Brainerd house as the clubhouse for residents of both apartment buildings. The plans for the renovations have been submitted. However, there were some issues with the proposed layout. The architect was going to correct them, but has not submitted revised plans as of yet. They are proposing to use the Sage House as a restaurant. The plans for the renovations have been submitted, but again, there were some issues with the proposed layout, and the architect is working to correct them. Plans for the renovations of the Hart Jarvis house have not yet been submitted, but they should be soon. And the earthwork for the entrance to Brainerd Place has been completed. Catch basins are installed, and the ground has been graded with the proper slope. Temporary retention ponds have been built throughout the property, and a retaining wall has been built along the southwest property line next to the Storage Rentals of America building. And if you've been on Lower Main Street this week, you'll see that they are replacing now the sidewalk that they
I
had.
saw them pouring it today.
Yeah, so they're doing a nice job putting the sidewalks back that they had taken out. So progress is moving forward. I had a nice meeting with Dan Bertram this evening, right before a meeting actually, and he gave me kind of an update on where they're at, and I believe he's kind of penciled in the August, is it our 16th, the 16th meeting to come here, but stay tuned. That's not definite yet, but those are my updates.
Can I just ask one more potential update from you?
Yep.
I was looking at the notes. All I found in our mail was the agenda. Do you have an update on the Riverfront Access Group? I know there's a nature study that's going on now. Do we have any results of that yet?
Not yet, and so actually I'm glad you asked that, because we have been waiting until June, in July, because there was a plant that seeded or potted this time of year, and we had to wait until it showed itself in order for it to be identified to see if it was in this area or not. And I am told that I received an email from Jeff Jacobson last week that had the results from this surveyor who looked into this, and he found there's no plants in the area that would cause a problem for us, which is good news. But he did say he is still waiting on those seed pods to come. So we're still waiting on that one plant. But the news was good enough that Jeff felt comfortable. We have now our mussel expert who's going to be looking for mussels in the river, and so he's going to be coming down there in July to look at not just mussels, but there's a list that Deep provided the town of potential endangered species in the area, and we need to go through that list and see if they're there, and if they are there, we have to look at mitigation factors. So this is all still in the works. It's taken a long time just to get, a lot of it is just waiting till the right time of year so we can get the experts down there to tell us whether or not we need to do anything.
Do they understand that the proposal isn't to put an asphalt powerboat trailer ramp? It's that people are going to be carrying in and walking out canoes and kayaks.
Yeah, I believe they do. They do not make this easy on us, unfortunately. It is very difficult, and it's a very tedious process. But the only good news for us is we have a grant. We have 2 grants, and we have time.
Yeah.
We're not gonna stop on this. We're gonna keep going until we get the results we're looking for. But it's a process, and I know it's been not easy for Rick and Lou, who have a committee, and they want to get going and do these things, and I'm right there with them. And it's really tough when you have all this red tape that comes up, unfortunately, and we just have to wait and see. So stay tuned on that. But the good news is we'll have some news to share hopefully very soon.
Thanks for that update.
No problem. All right, Ralph?
Well, I really don't have anything because I was gone for all the meetings. We were away, so the meetings that would have occurred last week, I wasn't around. So you covered the bases where I would have been, so.
All right. Thanks, Ralph. Any other selectmen with status and committee reports?
Kudos to the gentleman at the end of the table for his Facebook update and photos of
They
the
let
property.
me get by security every time when I go there.
Yeah, well, you're like VIP over there
I
now.
know, just about.
It was a very
Yeah.
thorough update. The pictures are
was. The
great.
pictures look
It was great. Well, and every time I'm there, I ask them realistically, when's the first person going to get in there?
Yeah.
And I think they're 15, 16 months, I think that's what you heard. So the one thing that Dan did give me about a week or so ago, because I sent him a message going, hey, I'm still stopping by and taking videos and all that kind of stuff. And he's having me send it to his son
Yeah.
and his email. So we had one person that sent an email yesterday and supposedly didn't go through. So I double checked it and it worked. So they just might have typed something wrong. But as Dan said, they're not going to get back to him until 6 months before they think they're going to do it. But they do get on a waiting list. I've had people ask me what the pricing was. And a couple of years ago, I recall like the studios, I think we're in the 13 to 15 range, but I don't recall the exact, I didn't want to throw any numbers out.
I wouldn't say that.
No.
After talking with Dan today.
Well, with everything's changed, and that was at least 3 years ago.
Yeah,
So,
these
but-
building costs, they're gonna have to recoup some money, I think, on
Absolutely.
this. But, well, so we'll see.
But there's a lot of interest, though. People are really anxious about,
Oh, yeah.
move there, so that's gonna be good. So,
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, thank you for updating.
My
Those are
pleasure.
great pictures.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
All right, we'll move back on to public comment. Nothing in chat. We'll move on. I don't have anything, but maybe someone does under general informal discussion.
I think we covered everything.
We covered a lot.
Got a lot today, yeah.
I have nothing under follow-up items, but we do have an executive session for the purpose of real estate and lease of town-owned land, potentially. So I will entertain a motion to enter executive session.
So moved.
Thank you, John.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Bobby. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're gonna enter executive session at 8:35, and that will do it for us on Zoom and online, and we will reconvene and end the meeting. Okay, thank you.